you should believe that coming of Imam Mahdi is very near. Why? Because Allah says, إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. Then he would tell me, Shaykh, even 1200 years ago, the Shia could be told, إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا وَنَرَاهُ قَرِيبًا. So this is not going to help me think it is very near, because this was true more than 1000 years ago and can be true even if Imam is going to come after another 1000 years. It's not going to become wrong. So how it can help me to think that this is near? Yeah, so what does it mean that it is qareeb? So this is what I want to understand. If we say it's qareeb, means because in Allah's measures it is qareeb, it doesn't help people. Because it says, okay, something qareeb in Allah's measure can be taking 1000 years. I have an understanding. I might be... Pardon?
Look forward to hearing.
Yes. I might be wrong, and maybe what you said is correct or something like that. But
it's not wrong. You might be close to you but far from.
Ahsant. My understanding is this. إِنَّهُمْ يَرَوْنَهُ بَعِيدًا. They are right. وَنَرَاهُ غَرِيبًا is also right. And both of them also can mean, according even to human standards and scale, it's far and near. This is my understanding. Suppose you want to go from, for example, this point to this point. For example, this is our situation now. This is the situation of Zuhur. Okay? Many changes should happen till we move from this situation to that situation. If you look at this current situation and what needs to happen, you think it's going to take hundreds of years, if not thousands of years. Why? Because you don't know the straight path. You think you have to go from here to here, come back. For you, how long it takes? If you every line go and come and till you reach here, it takes 1000 years. Because you cannot see straight. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, from the top, He knows how we are looking, and He knows also this. He says it's very near, but you are not seeing it properly and you think it's going to take a long time, and because you don't see it properly, you actually delay it. Because you have taken wrong direction. If you do it properly, it is really near, even in human standard. It can be this year. If you don't do it properly, it can take 1000 years or even 10,000 years. So this is the meaning. Not that, just you say, don't worry, according to Allah's measures, it's nothing. 1000 years is nothing. 10,000 years. No. Even according to your measure, it is near. But if you approach it properly. And if Shia of 1000 years had approached it properly, it had happened. They did the same mistake that we do, and it took long. If we do the same as them, it takes another 1000 years. If we understand and prepare ourselves quickly, then it can happen even this year.
So it wasn't a deception?
No, it was not deception if you say it in this way.
Yeah, if you say it in this way.
But if you know that it's going to take 1,000 years, but tell them, it can be near. So till last day of their life, they were waiting, but didn't happen. Then it can be like a deception. You knew that it's not going to happen. Why you told him it's going to happen? The problem is that we think it has a fixed time. And because it has a fixed time, it has to be either far or near. But my understanding is it has no fixed time. The way you look at it and the way you are working for it, it's going to take long. The way Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala looks at it, He says it can be done quickly. For example, we have hadith that even if it is one day left from this world, لَطَوَّلَ اللَّهُ ذَلِكَ الْيَوْمِ, Allah is going to make it longer so that this happens. Or Allah is going to do islah of Imam's affair in one, for example, night or something like this. What does it mean? One meaning which is very commonly understood is that it's going to certainly happen, and even if one day is left, you should not lose your hope, it is going to happen. But I think indirectly it means that preparation needs just one day. If you prepare well, it takes one day. Like for example, sometimes we say, in one Laylatul Qadr, you can achieve whatever you want. Yeah, but normally we take 40, 60, 100 years, and even after that we don't get it. But it was possible even in a moment. You make an honest deal with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and you totally change. We say in some poem that people of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, they made the journey of 100 years in one night. So it's possible. It could be 100 years, it could be one night. It's not fixed. It's up to you. And in my understanding, the most important aspect of that preparation is social wilayah. If Shia manage to get to that point of unity and organize themselves, we shouldn't bother about what is happening in the world. We should be organized and prepared. And how much you need to be organized? If this we decided we can do it today. Yes.
This explanation helps a lot, and it causes more questions sometimes.
Yes.
So I did some research while you were talking. I went to alislam.org.
Yes.
And I pulled the tafsir for this. The verse before speaks to, so be patient with a good patience. And the tafsir is explaining that this patience, before they behold the day is far and we see it near, this patience that precedes it entails istiqamah, or steadfastness, and constant forbearance of unalterated by despair, desolation, restlessness. So my question, the new question that came about is, we speak about how the Shia at the time may have taken a wrong route, and that's why it did not happen.
Yes. But Imam Mahdi Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farajahu Sharif, he is in a very special situation. Because he is not thinking that it's going to happen after 1,000 years and therefore he relaxes or he says, okay, no benefit, he is like a person who is a standby, waiting for the Shia to approach this issue properly so that it can happen anytime. Like for example, suppose your child is stuck in a room and there are 100 buttons there. One of those buttons is the one that can open the door. You are seeing from outside and you are very much waiting that he presses the right button, because you have told him many times that this is the button that whenever you need me, you press this. But the child was careless and said, you know, I press all the buttons and one of them. So he didn't learn it. So it's going to take time, but you are not able to leave and say, okay, because it's going to take a long time, let me go and have a cup of coffee and come back. You have to be there in case if he presses the right button. So Imam alayhi salam is in a condition that he has to be prepared, because maybe the Shia wake up and want him, need him right now. It's not that he thinks that it can happen after 1,000 years, so that he says, okay, now I don't need to be in a standby. It's a very difficult condition that if you are waiting for your community to open their eyes and see what they have to do, and it's just there, but they cannot see it, and you are waiting and praying, and you know, you understand the situation.
It gives new perspective and new light to our understanding, and it sort of leads me to ask the next question as to, and I don't know this, so forgive my ignorance here, why did he begin to go into Ghaybat al-Sughra and then Ghaybat al-Kubra, and could the Shia have done social wilaya so that Ghaybat al-Kubra would have not happened? And how can we inform ourselves from that historical perspective, so that we can do the social walaya and do it in the right way,
So, if I am right, correct, my understanding is that now that we look at the history, there was no appropriate time for Imam to come. He had to wait. But if we were going a long history, there was no reason why Imam could not have come earlier. Imam could have come 400 years ago, could have come 500 years ago. And I think, because Allah doesn't let him know the time, with every generation of Shia, Imam has the hope that maybe this is a generation who is going to prepare. So he puts his hope in every generation, but every generation are letting him down. So he has to wait. Yes.
So is based on what you have said, Sheikhna, is it basically the state of Ghafla? Because this is where we are most of the time and our lack of knowledge, because if that was that collective knowledge contribution
and wisdom. Maybe we have knowledge but no wisdom. We know many things, but we don't know what is the thing that we have to do now. What is the priority? Yes.
You said about how like basically it's near for us, like we do about like we need to prepare ourselves for the Imam. I mean, is it possible though for like the Imam to come near because of, for example, the evil forces that, because like for example, the evil forces are preparing themselves, right? So when they prepare themselves fully, right, then after they, for example, based off like hadiths, they do what the hadiths say, doesn't that make the Imam might appear instead of us being prepared? Like,
Yeah, I don't think that the problem is that they have not reached that level of viciousness yet. and we have to wait for them to do more mischief or become more corrupt or do more zulm. No. I think zulm is already a lot. Even the Quran says ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر ما كسبت أيدي الناس. Even at that time ظهر الفساد في البر والبحر. The main thing is that the camp of Imam is not ready. And this is a ongoing problem. What was the problem in time of Imam Ali or Imam Hussein or other Imams? Was it the problem that the other camp was not doing enough zulm? Or the problem was that this camp was not ready? So when we say Imam Yamla'ullahu bihil arda qastan wa adla, we should not think that ba'dama mula'at zulman wa jura is a condition. And till that condition is not fulfilled, Imam, no, that's not a condition in the sense of shart. That is a situation, not a kind of condition that it has happened, which has been there. This side has not happened. I think today zulm is more than enough. You cannot say earth is not filled with zulm.
That's not really what I meant. I'm talking about, for example, how there would be like armed forces that would attack, for example, Mecca, like the Kaaba, and then supposedly the Imam will appear. I mean, doesn't that have to do with doesn't that have to do with the evil side army attacking the Mecca, then the Imam will appear rather than us being prepared and all?
No, that is something that is going to happen when the movement starts. But movement does not start, and Imam would not declare the beginning of movement unless the Shia are prepared. So when the Shia are prepared and they declare them readiness, and Imam finds that they are honest, they are really prepared, then Imam declares, based on Allah's, of course, permission. What happens afterwards are not conditions in the sense that this is conditional upon those things. Those are things that happen afterwards. Yes.
So in relationship to the topic also where we've been discussing followership.
Yes.
Is it basically we haven't reached the wisdom of being a great followership?
Yes.
That's the reason why.
Exactly. Not only we as whole community or majority have not reached that level, even maybe we have not produced 313 at least good followers. That they could be the council for Imam or the first, not the first, but one of the first circles, because Imam has different levels of helpers. There are, people in different levels, but that 313 is like a council for Imam, people who help him with his international work. Even that seems not to be complete. Yes.
So, in many regards, the infrastructure is lacking. So this whole leadership followership phenomenon informs me to say that we are going to need, the Imam is going to need medical doctors, and journalists, and pharmacists,
Yes.
and warriors, and
Yes.
and so if I am going to go become a pharmacist, and Brother Jawad is going to go and exercise physiology,
Yeah.
that's determined by leadership. Right, and so that leadership is so the fragmentation that we have causes deep sadness.
Yes. Imagine like you are in army, and instead of the commander telling what I need you to do, everyone decides for himself. You know, he says, I like to work with this, I like to work with this, I like to be here. So this is an army that everyone is doing what he likes. How can this army be organized?
Really the bottom-up phenomenon. So the leadership really needs to unite. The social walaya has to happen at the leadership level, deep social walaya at the leadership level, and then deep social walaya at the follower level.
At the top it's okay because it's Imam.
Oh, I'm talking underneath the Imam.
Ah, yes.
Right underneath the Imam right now.
Yes.
Right?
But what we have to do is to start from ourselves, because if we wait for example, for Maraj, they cannot do anything without us. So every person should start. You know, I don't know if you heard, you know, sometimes Imam has given messages to some people that Faraj is very near. You know, to some of our great ulama Maraj.
I saw something on
Yeah. And my understanding is this, that when Imam was saying them that it's near, means that it was really near. Pardon? But then they missed the opportunity.
This is very frustrating.
Yes.
Yes. So if I am right, you understand how difficult is situation of Imam. That with every generation, especially when, for example, good leader emerges, or you know, there are good people, mu'mineen, Imam has hope, but then see they are not doing well. Yes.
I feel this discussion ties a lot with the ayah where Allah describes the people who are most at loss. هل أدلكم على الأخسرين أعمالا. And what's the antidote to that? Because if we're stuck in a forest and we're looking and we're starving, and we know there's a cabin that has our sustenance.
Yes.
And then it's right, you know, next to us, but there are barriers and we can't see. Maybe it's best to stop.
Yeah.
And then, you know, have another strategy than to kind of keep going and then becoming even further than where we started.
You know, our situation is like someone who is, for example, looking for food or medicine, and it's just in front of him. But he goes to every room, goes on the roof, you know, travels, and doesn't look, it's in front of you. We are looking for something very complicated, but I think the solution is there. It's just in front of us. We need to open our eyes. We have to get rid of ghafla. We think, you know, we should have, you know, billions of dollars, for example, I don't know, lots of, for example, soldiers, or, you know, things like this, lots of buildings, lots of organizations. Yes, this can be helpful, but this is not really what you need. What you need is a change in your heart that doesn't need money or equipment. Change in your outlook. Other things would come. Yes.
I have two questions.
Yes.
They're both related, but so the first question, the 3:30.
How is our time? Is it ba'id or qarib? What time is it?
6:30.
We kept Hazrat Yusuf waiting.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the
Sabra
3:13.
Jamilan.
What time is it?
6:38.
6:30. So what is our?
I mean, the walk in the woods is our schedule, but it's up to you if you so want to do
When is the walk?
The walk in the woods is about the appearance of of Imams.
Oh, really? Good.
Well, we're enjoying your conversation, so if you wish to extend it, it's no problem. We have breakfast at 8 o'clock in Shomali
Okay.
and our other cabins, so.
Okay. So,
So,
shall we continue with this or do tafsir? Or
I think it's related.
Yeah.
tafsir is late?
Our Mahdi is Yaqub's Yusuf.
Yes.
so the first
you-
question is the
yeah.
313. Is this the only condition or requirement for the appearance, or the 313 might exist, but the rest of the Shia are not at the level?
Very good question.
That's one. Because if we believe that 313 doesn't exist, that's very scary. Because during Imam Hussein's time, at least there was 100, right? There were 100 who went and fight with Imam Hussein. So at that time, there's 100 at least who were real, true followers of Imam Hussein. And now, after 1,200 years, we can't even find 313. That's a scary idea. So I don't know the.
Sometimes one person can take a century.
Yeah. The other
These are very special people.
The other question is, so that interpretation makes sense when we put it in Dua al-Ahd. But what about when we put it in the verse? Does that mean if we work in a way, then the Day of Judgment will probably be closer than if we worked in a different way? So can we take that interpretation in the ayah itself as well?
Yeah.
Thank you.
I think I am, of course, maybe wrong. I think 313 have not come to existence together. Maybe we have had many people in the history that if we put them together become 300, but not at one time. I don't think so far at one time this number has been there. And when, this is a very important point, don't say, okay, just 313, it's not going to solve the problem. Yes, it's not going to solve the problem. But if you have a generation that can have 313 people, you can then see how is that generation in general. You know, like for example, if we can have in a society of poets, in one generation, 50 people like Hafiz or like Rumi, then it cannot be just 50% and then zero. It means that you have to have thousands of people closer to that, then tens of thousands, you know, because these are like cream. If you have 313 as cream, below cannot be water. Yeah? So we need a generation that can produce 313 at the top. Yes, and about the second question, about Qiyamah, of course I said that ayah which is put in Dua al-Ahd, maybe the context is different. Because sometimes one point in an ayah becomes like a proverb that you can use it in other cases. But even for Qiyamah, I think Qiyamah is not far. Because you can look at it as something which is going to happen after thousands of years. I don't know how long this world is going to last. On the other hand, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, كَلَّا لَوْ تَعْلَمُونَ عِلْمَ الْيَقِينَ لَتَرَوُنَّ الْجَحِيمِ. Even now it's there. Heaven and hell is there. It's not fixed, but it is there. You look at it this way, but it is in front of you, just behind the veil. You know, this veil is extended for 1,000 years, and you want to go till end of the veil and see it, but even right now it's behind it. It's very near. If someone is looking from top, it's just in front of your eyes. Yes, Muhammad.
So what about, like, we have certain hadiths or foretellings, or I don't know how you want to call it, where they actually kind of name some of the people that will be with the Imam, and they say which regions or countries that he'll be coming from, you know? So maybe it's possible that, for example, these people just simply haven't existed yet, which is why the Imam didn't come. Or do you think maybe these hadith are inauthentic and they don't, or are these names just representative of the diversity of the 313 or something like this? I don't know.
My understanding is this, that these are not the things that are conditions. These are descriptions of what is going to happen, not conditions. So, if, for example, 313 people, but from another selection of countries already, Imam would say, no, you are not that 313 because you are not born there. Do you get my point?
So I guess I'm just wondering, if these aren't conditions, why would they bother even listing them, essentially?
No, these are things that are given to us. First of all, we have to understand their authenticity, but to make us feel that this is something real with lots of details. You know, if I tell you just something is going to happen, you don't take it seriously. But when I give you some also details, you take it more seriously. But these details are not going to stop us. You know, we have bada. Even if something is mentioned, if situation changes, it can happen, change. These are not signs which are not changeable. These are not hatmi that they cannot change. In other words, you have two levels of parameters. One level is necessary, the other is contingent. To have real, true mu'mineen who are united is necessary. To have this many men, this many women from this city, that city, these are contingent.
So in other words, can we say that those hadith might be, those hadith are in Lawh al-Mahfuz, because we say they're authentic, they're in Lawh al-Mahfuz, they're going to happen that way. But
they might be Lawh al-Mahfuz, they might be Lawh al-Mahfuz spot that can change.
But yes, but if you know, if they're going to happen that way, but they can change if they basically, if they're in Lawh al-Mahfuz, they don't change.
Yes.
This hadith in Lawh al-Mahfuz, it doesn't change, but it could be not in Lawh al-Mahfuz, and we can change that. But then the hadith would not become authentic at that point.
No, it's authentic. Even sometimes the Prophet said something and didn't happen. Isa alayhi salam said something and didn't happen, you know, about that wedding, and we have it in the course on the Quran. Not because they made mistake. That was going to happen unless something overrides. But you can think about it. You don't need to accept it now, but think about it, because I don't want to say this is decisive and 100%, you know, this is the case. This is one humble opinion that I wanted to share with you, but I think it has big impact on feeling the nearness of the thing and how our situation is very, very sensitive, because it can really happen in this generation. Yes?
I have two questions.
Yes.
The first, what's the meaning of subh? Is it just a metaphor to the beginning of a great day? And is it one day or a tamra? And
Which, أليس الصبح بقريب?
And the other one is, what are we missing in terms of unity with other people of faith? Like, other muwahhideen, what are we missing in that sense? And can one of the 313 be other than a Shia or a Muslim?
Subh here apparently means end of darkness. Alaysa as-subhu biqareeb means the beginning of day, means the beginning of light. Okay? In subh you don't have maximum light, but it's the beginning, and little by little becomes more and more. It means you are on the right direction and you are just getting more and more light. One of the things that we need for preparation is that Shia should be not only prepared personally and united internally, but they should be also well connected internationally. As I said yesterday, every Shia should bring lots of respect, lots of positive attention towards us. Because if Imam comes and people don't know about him or his cause, or don't have positive view, and everything is in hands of enemy and we have not reached out, this is not going to work. So we need people who are very pious, very committed, very honest, but each of them is a very good representative, a very good ambassador. Each of them can attract nations towards the cause. And is there any non-Shia in those 313? I don't know. But even if they are not in those 313, there can be associates, because I think in the camp of Haqq, there can be people of goodwill who are committed to the cause. Maybe they are not officially a member or whatever, that's another thing, but they are very close. On the other hand, in the camp of Batil, there can be some Muslims, there can be some even Shia who have no honesty and betray. So your aqidah is very important, but more than your aqidah, what type of person you are. Because munafiqeen also share the same aqidah, but they are in the right direction. Yes?
It's commonly said that the 313, if they existed in previous times, not at the same time, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will bring the raj'a, like, Allahumma hala bayni wa baynahum al-maut. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. From your point of view, is that no, they have to be, the 313 themselves have to be at the exact same time in the world.
Yes.
And reflecting also on your
Raj'a is correct.
but not for the 313.
Yes. One of my ideas is this. I might be wrong, but my idea is this.
Yeah, because it makes sense. Because
Yes.
if you talk
Exactly. My ideas always make sense, inshallah. Maybe they are not right, but because one of the things that is very important, I don't say anything unless it makes sense. But it's not that everything makes sense, it's correct.
Because yesterday you were saying that the people have to be, like a person that's great personality from another time might not be at this time because they don't know the context of the world.
Exactly.
So that's why they wouldn't qualify.
Exactly. This is one point. Another point is, I don't believe Raj'a is to change the balance. I believe the key players are those who are alive. Those who come back as Raj'a, they observe what is going to happen. Maybe they are on the side, but the major task is by those who are alive. It's not a sign of development of humanity if dead people come and establish the truth. Yeah? That generation must produce so many people that they can win the battle. Yeah? It's like, for example, you make a play of 40 players, but part of the play of 40 players is that they make a play in a theater and there are 300 people who are watching them. So those 300 people who are watching those 40 players are also players. Yeah, because you tell them you sit here, you do this. But these are not the main players. These are somehow observing players. The real players have to be alive. So I think 313 must be excluding those who return. These are alive people. Yes. You're welcome.
As I think about social wilaya,
Yes.
and I think about sort of the last 40 years of my living, this principle of social wilaya has not been has not manifested the way we...
Not only in 40 years, in 14 centuries.
well, I was gonna, so I have a, so where I was going with this was to say that it does not appear to be taught at a formalized institution. So and seeing, forgive me for using this word, but seeing scholars and the way in their behavior, it's not manifesting social wilaya per se.
Yes.
And then so is it that this principle of social wilaya is not in the books, and that it was not being taught, and now there is an understanding around social wilaya, and it may take a couple of generations or
a couple of retreats. Doesn't need to be a couple. Yes.
But there's another portion of all of this, and that was that Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, as we spoke previously, separate individually, he only had a few followers after such a long period of time.
Yes.
And Imam Zain al-Abidin only had a few followers. So if social wilaya has a theologic basis, why has it not been taught and brought to the community? And what plan is there for social wilaya to go back at the institutional level, and then it gets taught?
My experience has been that, first of all, the first time I wanted to discuss this, I was in Tanzania and was meeting of Muballighin in East Africa, in Kibaha. They were invited. And I was not sure what would be the response. I said either they like it or they dislike it. There was nothing in middle. Because it was very new. Alhamdulillah, they very much liked it. And I then talked to many people in Qom, in different countries. And so far, I have not come across anyone who says, no, this is not right. But everyone says it's new. It's like a new way of looking at something. Sometimes you look at something, it doesn't make sense. But someone says, maybe this is, for example, a person who is doing something. Like sometimes pictures, depending on how you read them, can make sense. If you don't read them in that way, it doesn't make sense. So no one so far has said this is wrong or this is something that's not clear. Everyone says, yes, it's very obvious, but we didn't think it that way. So I think, unfortunately, this is a missed point, which is actually the core of being Shia. You know this story that we mentioned yesterday about Burayd al-Ijli and Imam Baqir alayhi salam. I don't know, was in the general meeting or was with groups discussion. We have it in social raya in a collective. That Burayd al-Ijli says to Imam Baqir alayhi salam, "Oh Imam, you have lots of Shia in Kufa. Why you don't uprise against Yazid and Bani Umayyah?" He says Bani Umayyah in the time of Imam Baqir because Yazid was not there. Imam Baqir alayhi salam says what? He says, أَيَّضَعُ أَحَدُكُمْ يَدَهُ فِي كِيسَ أَخِيهِ فَيَأْخُذُ حَاجَةً. Is any one of you putting his hand in the pocket of his brother and take what he needs? He says no. Imam says فَهُمْ بِدِّمَائِهِمْ أَبْخَلْ. Or there is a similar thing. Imam says إِذَنْهُمْ لَيْسُوا عَلَى شَيْءٍ, something like this. If they don't have this, هُمْ لَيْسُوا عَلَى شَيْءٍ, they have nothing. Now, look at that person in Kufa. He's a Shia in Kufa. He is seeing that there are lots of Shia, and on the other side is Bani Umayyah, their system, their power, their soldiers, their money. And he thinks that this is going to be a matter of this Shia being able to fight Bani Umayyah. But Imam says, no, it's a matter of the way two Shia relate to each other. This is the main thing, not our confrontation. So it's your fight against your ego, and it's your openness to other mu'mineen. That is the main requirement. Do you think if he was able to say, yes, we have such relation, then Imam says, still we cannot do anything? No. This was the condition that if it was. So we have to work on this issue of social wilaya and make it very clear for Shia that this is the spirit of wilaya. Wilaya is the spirit of Islam, and social wilaya is the spirit of wilaya. Okay? If you are a Muslim but not Shia, you are a Muslim. But you don't have the soul. Ma nudiya bishay'in kama nudiya bil wilaya. Yeah, wilaya is not like salat. It's not like fasting. Not like hajj. Because these are parts of Islam, and if someone denies them, he's not a Muslim. Like, if you don't have hand, you have no complete body. If you don't have leg, But if you have all these parts, no wilaya. It's like a body which is complete, it has all the parts, but just doesn't have ruh. Islam without wilaya doesn't have ruh. Doesn't have life. Okay? And then, wilaya without this has no life. This is the core of the core. Yes?
Just a question. So now, may Allah bless you for explaining and elaborating this aspect
Sure.
of the details of the social related. Now, on the bottom level, as any individual, brothers and sisters and now they're embracing this concept. I think maybe it's just an idea they came to my mind, and I have spoken to one of the brothers about it. Sometimes, I mean, I don't want to be too judgmental, maybe I'm mistaken. I'm positioning myself, maybe it's a mistake from my shortcoming from my part, but sometimes we fall too much short in superficial sort of transaction relationship with people and individual. And this is sometimes in reality, it doesn't help, because sometimes transparency and being and then being truthful, this is what elaborates and push this sort of concept of social wilaya in bringing fruits, basically. So how could we sort of basically sometimes tackle this sphere of superficiality without either harming? It's not about harming, because you know, especially sometimes you don't want to hurt your brother, even if you want to say something that is straightforward. So I don't know. I just want to hear maybe an advice that you could give us. Basically, how could we go more in depth and not afraid of being in depth? Because for me, it doesn't make sense of social wilaya without going deeper, basically.
So in the sense that to be honest with each other and straightforward?
No, to be authentic.
Authentic,
exactly. Open a relationship, it's not just a formality.
So if you are ready to support your brothers and sisters, to share what you have with them, sacrifice for them, this is very deep. Then inshallah the other party also would become like that. Pardon?
But this starts from your side and then...
Yes.
There is an expectation, exactly. If you want to go deep.
No, you go deep and let that person little by little go deep. Because in these cases, if you want to make it conditional upon the other person doing something, that person also is waiting for me. Every person goes as deep as possible, but tries to meet that person where he is. Doesn't say, come and meet me there. So those who are in the higher levels, they should be able to be moderate with those who are in lower level. Yes? It's like, for example, a scholar. Someone, for example, if is very deep in understanding Quran, but when he's teaching people, he should not expect them to be also as deep. So he should meet them at their level, not expect them to meet him at his level. نحن معاشر الأنبياء نكلم الناس على قدر عقولهم. Anbiya didn't speak to people according to their own level. They spoke to people according to the level of people. Yeah? So everything you should be moderate and rafiq. Yeah? It means with rifq. Yes.
To Brother Farouk's point, and also to connect things together. So in the last, all this time, all the successes that have happened in Islam.
Yes.
I remember one time I had asked, why do we consider Islam to be Aziz? And the situation of Muslims right now. And you mentioned Islam is Aziz in the sense that the batil doesn't enter into it, and it's robust and well explained, and it has a strong building in that sense. So there's an accomplishment there, right?
Yeah.
All the accomplishments of, for example, the fact that people are religious and care about religion even after colonialism and the different things that have come to the religion.
Yeah.
They were very secular.
Yeah.
Other places in the world where there was war and people have overcome overwhelming odds in liberating their land and so on and so forth.
Yeah.
All these different successes, can we say that, because I don't like to accept immediately that no, social wilaya, like Sheikh Shomali basically discovers social wilaya, and before that nobody knew what this means, nobody practiced it, nobody knew it, and nothing happened, and we're starting now. So before, I don't know if we have to accept that or even if it's the right thing, but it seems like maybe, can we say that there were pockets of people in different times that were basically doing this, but they didn't institutionalize it, they didn't formalize it. Maybe they said it, but people didn't pick up and didn't pass it on. For example, we can't go into examples for political reasons, but there are examples, and there are historical examples as well. So I don't know what I said now, which part of it makes sense, which one doesn't. All these successes, if social wilaya is what brings the Imam, then there has to be a measure or some dimension of maybe just a family is a loving family, they teach this to their children, the scholar becomes inspired, he learns the religion properly, he becomes. There must have been this element in all of these successes if it's so central to success. But maybe not enough of it, and maybe it wasn't widespread enough. You know,
sometimes it might have existed in a small scale, but in a universal scale has not existed, and even when it existed, maybe it was not with clear understanding of its importance. You know? Sometimes you are in front of a door and you say something that by chance was the password for this door to open. But you didn't know that this was the password. So another time you go, the door is not open. Other people go, the door is not open. Because you didn't know that was the password. So if we had any success, good success, there must have been this unity between them. But maybe they didn't know that this was the reason for success. They thought the reason for success was something else. So what we want to do is to make every Shia conscious that social wilaya is very important, and if they don't have it, something big is missing, not something which is mustahab or marginal. لن تدخل الجنة. We have this hadith in Rasulullah والذي نفسي بيده لن تدخل الجنة حتى تؤمنوا ولن تؤمنوا حتى تحابوا. I think this is what every prophet has taught, but we didn't get the message. Yes. Okay. And there are also some other people, yes. But I also, before we continue, wanted to say about the question Sister Janan had, is Sister Janan here? About Hazrat Yusuf. I said, about the story that Nubuwwah was not continued in the progeny of Hazrat Yusuf, and I said I am not, sure. So I checked, and then I saw that some scholars question this. There is hadith, but this hadith seems to be mursal, and they question and they say, for example, when the Quran says, Surah Yusuf, number 99, فَلَمَّا دَخَلُوا عَلَى يُوسُفَ آوَى إِلَيْهِ أَبَوَيْهِ. Means he himself went to welcome them and embraced them, and he said, "Udkhulu Misra insha'Allah aminin." So they say he went from palace outside city to welcome them and respected them, and they say he was one of mukhlasin. So that story might not be true, especially because they say, according to some sources, there were prophets in the progeny of Yusuf. For example, the successor of Musa alayhi salam is Yusha. And they say Yusha was Ibn Nun, Yusha ibn Nun, Ibn Farathim, Ibn Yusuf, Ibn Yaqub. So it's not that there was no prophet in his progeny. Yes. Who was the Sister Fatima? You know who are? Yes. Okay. Yes. Pardon? So the first is that you think there must be a reason that Shia have been successful? Yes, certainly. Because Alhamdulillah we have many positive things. We have this idea of hierarchy, we have this idea of rationality, we have spirituality, Alhamdulillah. We have many good things. Therefore, maybe it's a matter of just, as I said, internally put ourselves in the good form of being united and being true followers. Because if we don't have this, these victories may not continue. Yeah? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, "Man yartadda minkum an dinihi fasawfa ya'ti Allah biqawmin yuhibbuhum wa yu'minuun." Many times in the history, some good people are there, they make some success, but they cannot keep up this. So we have to be very careful, and we need also to carry on. We should not be satisfied.
Also, you're saying we have great individuals, but we don't have great communities. Even maybe like I don't know lots of people, but I feel even in terms of individuals, we have a lot to work on.
We have a lot to?
We have a lot to work on.
Yes, of course. We have good individuals as far as their personal and individual aspect is good. But even these individuals, sometimes they have not developed well their social skills, their social akhlaq, They don't, for example, do haram, but they don't know how to treat, for example, a person who is, for example, in difficulty, or a person, for example, who comes to the center who is not from that community, or how to organize themselves. So the social aspect of us has not grown that much. And the issue of coming of Isa alayhi salam is very important, and I think it has lots of indications for us. What does that mean, and how it's going to affect Christians and Muslims, relations. So this is very important in some discussions about unity of God and unity in God. I mentioned this, and in the book Unity of God and Unity in God, this is mentioned. How many people have read this book, Unity of God and Unity in God? Pardon? Do we have it here? Yes. Pardon?
Sold out.
Okay, I have maybe 3-4 with me. I'll give it. So this is the three presentations I had in the first round of Wings of Unity. And if you read this, the lectures are also maybe 2 of them online. If you read them, you see what is, in my understanding, the situation of the world going to be in the time near coming of Imam and after that, and part of it is the issue of Muslim-Christian relation. And I think coming of Isa alayhi salam is very meaningful, very special. Yes. Who is? Yes.
If someone reached, let's say, the level of a 313 person,
Yes.
but there aren't like other people around him that are even close to that level, so like the Imam will appear, right? So then after this person would die, right? So does all his efforts of being such a high level go through this? Because he doesn't like, because when he, for example, is resurrected, you said that from the 313, it won't be from the resurrected, right? So
No, they can be. You mean those who are in that level before Imam comes?
those that are at that level, right, but won't be at the time of the Imam because of his surroundings
Okay.
aren't at that level.
So they are not losing, because the main thing is that you are preparing yourself for helping Imam. And even people who are doing this in the time of ghaiba, maybe they have more merits, because the time of ghaiba is very challenging time. And as we had hadith of Imam Zainul Abidin to Abu Khalid al-Kabuli, those who wait for Imam and actively waiting for Imam and believe in Imamah, أفضل أهل كل زمان. They are best people of all times, including even the people who come after. So if in the time of ghaiba you manage to do what your Imam wants from you, is more important than someone that in the time of presence of Imam does that. No one is losing when he rises in taqwa or preparation. Yes. I don't know who is earlier. You also wanted to say something? Yes, I think she was, yes. Pardon?
Concerning the concept of social wilaya, which we're very much invested in, and also connecting it to the way that the Imam of our time works in terms of helping people get to the point where we're ready for his reappearance. So I know we talked a lot about what's lacking. I'm wondering what spirit the Imam himself kind of has been tackling the challenges that he's facing with the work that he's trying to do with the Ummah right now. Certainly there are times where he may feel sad or disappointed, but also he's also very positive and hopeful and always seeking new opportunities to develop the people who he's waiting for and working tirelessly kind of in the process of doing it. So as we're trying to also help him and first help ourselves obviously to bring this progress about, when we're trying to promote this idea of social wilaya, sometimes when we have an idea that we're trying to push, we push the idea itself in a very theoretical or dry kind of way, and it's more or less appealing to people around us, and sometimes it's detrimental to the idea itself, because the way that it's being presented is not having the right effect on the people who it's being presented to. So how can we basically strive to create awareness about this concept. And in the same spirit that the Imam of our time has been, working so hard with us to bring about awareness about so many different things, so that we protect it and safeguard it as well.
This is a discussion by itself, that what are the ways that we can benefit from Imam's guidance. Because the condition of Imam is like, for example, suppose, as I said, your child is in the room and you are watching him, but you are not supposed to tell him what to do. Yes? You very much want to tell him, but he has to make his mind and the decision. But if the child becomes desperate, then you have to help him. I think we should not expect from Imam alayhi salam to tell us what we are supposed to do, because it's a time of ghaiba and we must have learned techniques and principles and methodology of understanding what we should do. But if we really feel desperate, mustar, then Imam would help us. I think one problem that we have is that we have not understood the level of emergency. It's like alarm is on, but we cannot hear it because it has been always on. Imagine if from the time you were born the alarm is on and you take it easy. If Shia on all levels, especially from leadership side, recognize emergency of situation and they are really mustar, Imam helps them. I was noticing this beautiful connection in the Quran. Ya ayyuhal aziz massana wa ahlana dhurr وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ. This is what many times people use also for Imam Zaman. What brothers of Yusuf told him. Ya ayyuhal aziz massana wa ahlana dhurr. What is dhurr? وَجِئْنَا بِبِضَاعَةٍ مُزْجَاةٍ فَأَوْفِ لَنَا الْكَيْلَ وَتَصَدَّقْ عَلَيْنَا. They said, we are desperate. If massana wa ahlana dhur, so then what you become? Mustar. Amman yujibul muddarra idha da'ahu wa yakshifu as-su'. So if we realize that we are mustar, Imam is going to help us. But if I say, I know what to do, this is the way that we have to go, this zigzag way. So Imam says, okay, go and try it. Therefore, it's very important for us to be in a very close connection to Imam and feeling that we are desperate. There is a story that I don't know how authentic it is, but it is mentioned in some books. And the late Sheikh Kafi, I don't know, I've heard Sheikh Kafi was in Iran before revolution, and they say maybe he was killed, by regime. He was very famous for his recitations on Imam Zaman and Imam Hussein. So he mentions this, and it is in some books, that there was a time that in Bahrain there was a governor whose minister was against Shia. And he was trying to make the governor or king destroy Shia. So at one time, he brought a pomegranate, Romania, on which the names of all 4 Khalifa was like impressed, you say? Engraved. So he said to Khalifa, to the king or governor, whatever, look, this shows these people mazhab is wrong, because it says La ilaha illallah Muhammadun Rasulullah, first, second, third, and fourth, Khulafa'u Rasulullah. So this governor called leaders of the Shia community and said that unless you explain this to me, or I'm going to declare you as deviant and heretical. So they said, give us 3 days.
So what was on the message again? I didn't get it. What was engraved?
Name of 4 khulafa, that these 4 are khulafa or Rasulullah. So basically like Sunni version of Islam, and saying, look, this is Allah has made this pomegranate with this is a mu'jiza, a sign. Okay? So the Shia asked for 3 days to come up with explanation. And they then went and selected, 40 among themselves. They shortlisted. Among them, they selected 3 people. And each night, one of them was asked to go to desert and do tawassul and prayer. The first night didn't happen anything. Second and the third, and I think the third was Ahmad ibn Isa Bahraini. So, according to this story, I'm not saying it's 100% off, but it's recorded. He had encounter with Imam alayhi salam. And Imam told him what was the trick. And said that you go with the governor or king to the house of Wazir. But don't let Wazir go before you. And you go to that room, there's a room, gave the description, on the, for example, shelf or what is, you say, raf, what is? There is a pack. Inside that pack, there is a cast. This Wazir, when this pomegranate was small, put this cast around it, which had these names. When it grew, they were engraved. So he thanked Imam for answer, but said, why you didn't give us answer the first night? Then Imam said something very important. He said, because you asked from the king 3 days. If in that majlis you asked me for help, I would have helped you. It means that if you were desperate and feeling that you are desperate, I would have helped you. But when you feel that you have time, so we take it to the last moment. Whether this story is correct or not, which seems to be correct, but even if someone doubts it, the point is there. That you somehow define the response of Imam. If you tell, oh Imam, in 1 year give me the answer. So he wouldn't give you today. But if you say, I need answer today. But of course, it has to be honest. You have to show that if you get the answer today, it makes big difference, Not that, you are just rushing.
Is it like husnul dhan?
It's husnul dhan, but also a matter of istirar. A matter of istirar. Husnul dhan is part of it, but istirar is very important. So we Shia must not have relaxed life in the time of ghaibah. Imagine if our child is missing, like Ya'qub alayhi salam. He knew that Yusuf is alive. Yeah? He knew that he's alive. But just was missing. Did Ya'qub have a normal life? He didn't have normal life. He became even blind. Because his Yusuf is missing. So how we can have normal life when our Imam is missing? This is questioning our love for Imam. Unfortunately, it seems that we have our normal life. We are not desperate. If a mother or father, his child is missing, he's desperate, goes everywhere, asks everyone, knocks every door, cries. But we are in normal condition, we are not desperate. It's a problem. Yes.
Yes, I was speaking to a KLC brother. As you were talking about followership, you gave that hadith where you can go in from Imam Bakr, where you can go in somebody's pocket and take money. Mm-hmm. And we've been talking about the infrastructure. Mm-hmm. So one of the pieces of all of this is this idea of, that hadith from the Holy Prophet where somebody went to the mosque and did not tie the camel to the tree and the camel walked away.
Yes.
So I must prepare for retirement in this thinking, but at the same time,
yes,
as I prepare for retirement, quote unquote, whatever I can do to save for my family, but that money under leadership would then be shared appropriately with whatever limitations there are. I'm really listening to all the brothers and sisters speak about this idea of social wilayah. I'm not trying to be naive in my questioning.
Yes.
And say that I don't think it existed. But I think a formalized, institutionalized process that has not existed.
Yes. So my idea is that we should have a system. Okay? For example, members of a community, either a stationed community, like for example people in one city, or a universal community, like KLC, for example, that we are not stationed in one place, but we are a community. Okay? There should be a system that we put our resources into a list or database or whatever. What talents I have, what skills I have, what contacts I have, what I can do, what money I have, things like this. Then we should have among us some people who are trustworthy and fair and honest and keep things confidential. They know how much is available. They make sure that we have no needy person among us. For example, they see that, alhamdulillah, we have this much extra. We can look after the needy. Or we have this project, we have to build a school, for example. Anything. We have to send some people to study, for example, journalism, for example. You know, we support them. But this is done with fairness, with honesty, and without making one person, you know, bankrupt. So the same people are thinking about your future. They're not saying that, you know, you become bankrupt and have no plan, we have no plan for your future, just help other people. But as far as you are concerned, you trust the system and you let them decide with your consultation, but they are also very concerned about you. So a true leader is very concerned. It doesn't say because my follower has volunteered, so I take everything from him. No, he's like a father, like a mother. When your child offers something, you are very hesitant to take and you think about his future as well. So there must be such a level of trust. Till we achieve it in large scale, at least I say, try to establish this with few people. At least choose 4 or 5 people who are Shia and not related to you, with whom establish this. So that you can say to Imam Zaman that at least I opened my pocket to 5 people. If in the whole world you cannot find 5 people to trust, then it means you are a very suspicious person. I cannot say, okay, open your pocket to every Shia who asks for help, because I know there are people who are not honest, there are people who take advantage, but at least there must be some people that you can trust, so that you go to another level of wilayah.
The conflict is the society
Yes.
is very individualistic.
Yes, exactly.
And
We are going opposite to the current, because we are becoming more and more. So now, even between brothers and sisters and husband and wife, everything is now becoming separate, unfortunately. And we want to say you have to treat a mu'minin as your brother and sister. So we are going to the opposite current, but it is important.
the other is the numbers conversation. Talk about this again. Nabi Nuh, only few followers.
Yes.
And the wisdom shared by some scholars is numbers don't matter.
Mm.
You know, be organic, and even if you have few, it's fine. But
numbers matter.
And that's what I've been getting from you for the last 2 days.
Yes.
That numbers matter.
Yes.
Yeah,
But they are not the only things that matter. So you have to have quality, but then that quality should reach certain quantity so that can be effective. Yes? We cannot solve everything with one person or 2 people. We need 313. So, but the quality, you cannot compromise about the quality to increase the number. But number is also important. There is a combination of quality and quantity that works. You have to reach that combination.
Sheikhna, heard there's an experience of brothers are moving towards social wilaya, and so they it's all about building trust. And you know how the hadith says, if you hold back with regards to your money, then you'll hold back with regards to your blood even more.
Yes.
Something like this. So they've done an exercise where one brother gave a haircut to the other, and they did it mutually.
Yes.
I was thinking about that. I'm like, actually, I'm not ready to trust my brother with my hair.
Yes.
Maybe I should try to do this as an exercise. I don't know what you would say about it.
I want to have a
wanted to
haircut
ask
with
you this. I was waiting a couple of months.
So, what is the significance?
This is the second level. In my case, there's no significance. There's not much hair, but I mean. but the significance, Sheila, is very big. To trust your brother with your hair is a big step forward.
No, if he is skillful, you can trust him. Or if he says that, I am able to do it, but if he's not experienced, you don't need to trust him,
I'm a pharmacist, I can give you a haircut.
Yes, Sister Fatima, who?
I think I started by the question.
Yeah, just a quick question, maybe very obvious. How can how can we have two nabis at the same time, but we can't have three imams?
We can have many nabis, but one of them can be leader. When there is Musa and Harun, Musa is leader, Harun is wazir. There can be no more than one imam at each time, and if they have connection, place. If there is no connection, maybe for example in the past there was a prophet here, another prophet there, this was leader here, that was leader there. But if there is connection, only one.
And Yusuf was the imam of his father?
No, I don't think. Maybe later, but not when he was a child, or because inshallah, of course not this time, but if we continue in the verse 22, Allah says lamma balagha ashuddahu ataynahu hukman wa ilma. Later he became a prophet, and maybe imam even later. So at the beginning he was not a prophet or imam. Sister Fatima? Yeah, of course.
No, I just want to respond to the jihad, because one of the elements of social life is not that when we say that we reciprocate, it has to be necessarily equal, but it's that everybody has their specific talents.
Yes.
It makes a sort of interdependence. So one person might give a haircut, the other person might give the keys for their car, or might give money, or might give
Exactly.
So I think we have to see
Yes. Yes. Exactly. What is important is you offer what you can do, and if someone asks you for help, for example, someone says, can you cut my hair? You are happy to help, but you should also say, I have no experience. I can help, but I have no experience. If you don't say this and then you don't cut properly, then this is not right. Or someone's car is broken down. So, can you help me to repair it? And it's a small problem, you make it a huge problem. So, it's important to be available, but at the same time to be honest with what you can do.
Just to clarify, alhamdulillah, the experience was very successful and both brothers looked very good.
Yes.
Yeah?
This is why you are covering your head?
I wasn't involved. I wanted to avoid it, so I started cutting my hair like this, you know?
I see.
Inshallah, we have about 10 minutes left, so if any last questions that you want to get off your chest, please.
Yes.
After
Yes.
I have a question in regards to reconciling two ideas. The first that we have this sense of desperation for the Imam.
Yeah.
And then also what you mentioned in yesterday's lecture, and also in the fellowship series about if the Prophet, or let's say even if the Imam were to visit our masjid, would we be the ones who want to keep him for ourselves, or would we want others to come in and serve them? So I guess, how do you reconcile these two ideas?
So we are desperate, but it doesn't mean that we act emotionally. Yeah? So we have to ask Imam, we very much want to be with you, but shall we offer other people to be with you? Yes?
So like not to be exclusive, like in regards to Imam.
Yes. Yeah, it's not recorded, yeah? It's recorded. You can stop it now. We have this case that, I don't know if you have watched the movies of burial